This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Xencelabs is a newer company to the pen display world, and they released a medium-sized drawing tablet about 2 years ago. Now they are releasing their first screen-based pen tablet. How is it? Let's check it out. Hello, my name is Brad. I review tech for creative professionals. This was provided to me by Xencelabs, but my opinions here are my own. There are a lot of really great pen displays out there right now, whether you're talking about the Wacom Cintiq Pro 27 that came out last fall, or Huion's Canvas 24 4K. It's really hard to go wrong at this size in this category. Everything's pretty good. Xencelabs' very first pen display fits right in there. They're trying to up the quality of, say, like a Huion product while coming in underneath the price of, say, a Wacom product. And I think for the most part, they've pretty much nailed it. I think the real question here is, are all these extra bells and whistles that they're adding in here really worth the extra price? Let's check it out. Inside the box, we have the big pen display itself. This thing is a monster, coming in at 24 inches. It is big, it is heavy, it is a beast that will take up your entire desk. You're also gonna have the power cord and a little brick. In fact, this thing is probably too small to really call a brick. You also have the cables that you're going to need to plug this into your computer. This comes with a lot of different cables. If you want to connect this via HDMI and a USB type A connection, can totally do that. There's a mini display port connector here. I went with just a USB type C. Also included, connected to the display as you take it out of the box, is a stand. Now this is the same exact stand that I've seen on other Huion and XP products, and it works well. You can set it up at any comfortable drawing angle, and when you're not drawing on it, you can also pull it all the way up to use it as a monitor on your desk. There's also a quick key remote thingy and a little holder for it that slides nicely along the side of the display. Then there is this. This is the pen holder, and this is really nice, you guys. This is an area where you're like, okay, they're really putting some time and energy into this little case. Because inside it, you don't just get one pen, you're getting two pens. There's a larger pen, which we're used to seeing with most pen tablets, but also something else I've been seeing on pen tablets a lot lately, which is like a slimmer, more Apple Pencil-like sized pen. Everybody's starting to include these more textured felt tip nibs now. I think that is a good trend. If you want a little bit more texture on your screen, the feel of those works pretty well. There's also a little USB type A dongle, so you're going to need this to use your little remote control. And just in case you only have USB type C ports on your computer, they gave you a little adapter with their logo on it. This is a display tablet, and the very first thing I noticed as I set it up and plugged it in was, wow, this thing is brighter than I expected. That's a good thing. This thing ends up going all the way up to 330 nits. I ended up turning down the brightness a little bit because it was too bright for me personally. But having the ability to go brighter, especially if you're in a really well-lit room, is a nice touch. This is a full 4K display. That's 3,840 pixels by 2,160 pixels. It's of course laminated and bonded. That means you're not gonna have that gap between the glass and the screen below it. So it also looks really good when it's bonded like this. Has that nice texture on the surface, which I really like drawing on. Also reduces any glare if you have this at a lower angle. And it also doesn't really seem to collect a ton of fingerprints either. Now, one thing to note is even though this is a more expensive display, this is not a touchscreen. That's not a feature that's here that you might find on some of the higher end Cintiq Pros. All right, so now that we got the basics out of the way, let's talk about drawing. But before we do, I want to shout out to today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform for building the ultimate website for your brand or business, and they make it crazy easy to build your site. With the Fluid Engine, Squarespace gives you a next-generation website design system. It's never been easier for anyone to unlock incredible creativity. Starting with a best-in-class website template, you can customize every detail and reimagine with their drag and drop technology on mobile and on desktop. Speaking of those custom templates, it is a great place to start your website design. They've got all these categories that you can surf through and pick out the one that best fits your content and your unique needs. Make your idea, your brand, your business stand out online on any device. With their new asset library, you're able to manage all your files from one central hub and use them across the entire Squarespace platform. Head over to squarespace.com for a free trial. When you're ready to get started, go to squarespace.com/BradColbo to save 10% on your first purchase of a website or domain. Okay, so drawing on this thing feels really good. I like the fact that this comes with two different sized pens. I really prefer the larger pens. Maybe it's just that's what I'm used to drawing with. I find that I also am able to hold them a little bit looser than the smaller pen, but that's just me. And the fact that they include both of them means that you could just do what feels best to you. And overall, it checks most of the boxes, right? The pressure curves work really well. I thought the initial activation rate on the tablet, like how light you had to draw to get a line to appear, was really good. The one area where I did catch some things was line wobble when I was drawing slow angled lines. And in that regard, to me, this really felt very, very similar to one of the larger Huion tablets that I've used before. While I can detect some line wobble, it's really easy to knock out with just a touch of line smoothing. You knock that up to like 6 to 8% in Photoshop, and you pretty much eliminate it. The star of the show for me was this little shortcut remote. I've used one before, so I wasn't that surprised because I had one packed in with the medium tablet I reviewed about 2 years ago. You plug it in using the provided USB cable, and then once it's charged up, all you have to do is use the dongle to use this thing wirelessly. The first thing you're going to notice about this is that there's an LCD screen, so you no longer have to guess which buttons you program to do what. If you only have like 4 buttons on the side of your tablet, it's not that big of a deal. You can remember, but when you have 8 buttons, it gets a little bit more confusing. You can also program this in different states, so you can toggle through those states. Each one is going to give you a different set of buttons that you can use. So you can really go to town with this shortcut remote. So being able to label those things to know exactly what you're hitting before you're hitting is really, really nice. You can change modes by clicking on the button in the middle of the little wheel there, and the little LED light changes color to tell you which thing you're on. Again, it's just a little thing, but instead of zooming in and out when you mean to change your brush, you can see right there, oh, it's the wrong color. I know I have to toggle it to the next thing. Now, one thing that I kind of wish the wheel was just a touch clicky. It has a good rotation, which means it zooms in and out the appropriate amount or changes your brush the appropriate amount as you go around it. It doesn't blow that out too quick or take too long. And that could be the reason why they're not going with the clickiness, is because they want you to have that kind of accuracy, but it felt a little loose at times. Just a little nitpick there. I also should point out that the screen of this remote is flickering while I film it. Don't worry too much about that. That wasn't something I could see in real life. It was just matching up with the speed of the camera lens I'm using and causing that effect. The other thing that stood out to me as someone who uses a lot of these products is that the drivers are really pretty. And now that's kind of a dumb reason to like something, but I think it was really usable. They borrowed a ton of stuff from Wacom, but I think the way it's organized just makes more sense, right? There's really big icons to say, these are your tablet settings. This is your first pen settings, your second pen settings. I should also point out, this was something that I noticed, was that you can set each pen individually. So if you're someone who likes to change the pressure curve from time to time on your drawings, you could set the pressure curve to one thing on one pen, something else on another pen, and just switch out the pen without having to jump into the settings all the time. You could also go in and change things like your shortcuts on a program by program basis. You can also change the LED lights for which program is currently highlighted. So if you're in Photoshop, you can have it be yellow. If you're in Clip Studio, you could have it be red. Or if you're using 2 completely different programs, you can kind of see what the active one is just by glancing at the color of your buttons. There's a lot of little features here. I really like that all the brightness and contrast controls are right here in the drivers. I don't have to use those horrible buttons on the side of the monitor that we've had around for ages and ages and ages. It's 2023. We live in the future. This is how all displays should be now. I also stumbled upon default color spaces that you can easily switch between. And another nice feature is you can always go in and reset to kind of the base settings, your base color and contrast settings. It's nothing new in any driver, but you can do it on an individual page instead of a global level, so you're not resetting everything all at once. And knowing it was so easy just to reset part of those settings made me much more likely to actually go in and play around with those settings. There's also a virtual tablet-like feature here. This is an evolution of those switch focus display features we've seen on tablets before. So for example, I might be drawing on my drawing tablet and I might want to reach something on my second screen using my pen. I could turn it on so now my pen is located over here on this other screen, or I could have it so my pen is actually controlling the entire width of both screens. My virtual tablet is doing something a little bit different. It actually puts up a little like yellow area there on the screen for you to show your active area, and then you can decide which monitor you want to be controlling at that time. It's just another one of those features that isn't absolutely necessary, but it's kind of nice to have. All right, so in general, to sum it all up, what do I think? The one thing that kept popping into my mind as I used this was that This tablet isn't doing anything goofy. What do I mean by that? So many things that I review just have some quirk or two that's just like, what? Why is that, right? Like you plug in the cords and they just pop out of the top of the monitor and it just looks stupid. Or maybe the cords plug in like at the bottom and they get in the way of the stand. Or maybe like it works perfectly, but there's this fan that blows really loud for no apparent reason. Like it just seems like every single thing you review just has that like one thing where it's like, man, if you could tweak this, if you could change this one thing, it'd be so much better. And when I was reviewing this, there just wasn't anything goofy like that. And I think that's my general takeaway. They're not doing anything revolutionary here. They're not really doing anything that nobody has done before. They're just trying to incrementally do it a little bit better. From a pure drawing standpoint, I mentioned this reminds me of the Huion Canvas 24 4K. Very, very similar drawing style, very similar size, very similar screen. But if price wasn't an option and I had to choose between the two, I would definitely go with this one. But this is $600 more. And I think the question you have to ask yourself is, what is that $600 worth to me? Is the only thing I care about the drawing experience and only the drawing experience? In that case, probably go with the Huion. Do you like some of the features that they have here? Do you like some of the differentiations they put in place? Maybe that's where the Xencelabs makes sense to you. But what do you think? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.